Of corporate office. Number one in customer service. Apex Bank of Camden, Benton County's best bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Operation 7570 on this Saturday morning. Sun's starting to shine a little bit. Looks like the temperature is warming up, and that's great news considering the weather we've had the last 4 or 5 days throughout Camden, Benton County, and the entire area. But certainly hope that everybody made it safe and sound these past few wintry, cold, and slick days. And great to have you with us on the program today, Operation 7570. And coming in, glad for the warm-up, he wants to get out and play a little golf sometime. This is our Director of Schools, Mark Florence. Mark, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you for the invitation, Flash. We always appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about our school system.
Well, it's been an interesting week. Big question right off the bat. Are we going back to school Monday?
Absolutely. We'll be in school Monday.
That's great news. That's great news. Seems like, the second half of the school year was off to a wonderful start the past 3 or 4 weeks, and then we have this. But, hey, you've got to deal with that with the winter elements, and you're used to that.
We are. I mean, they're tough decisions. Everybody likes a snow day. Our students and teachers deserve a snow day. They're a little stressful at the central office sometimes, but it's tough decisions. We understand it's very difficult on parents that are working and sometimes having to make those quick arrangements. But the only thing I can tell you as the school system, we always try to make the decision that keeps our students and staff safe, and that's what we strive for. And sometimes those decisions are hard, but we're always going to err on the side of safety.
What goes into the overall decision? I mean, do you make it strictly Mark Flores' decision, or do you get help from people out in the community? How does that work?
No, we, number one, I think probably our highway superintendent, Mr. Buck Carter, and then I also always talk to Richard Key, emergency management director, Chad Douglas, our transportation supervisor, and then I will talk to supervisors on occasions, but also reaching out to other superintendents across the region, especially close to us, Mr. Villafur over in Decatur County, Mr. Rye in Humphreys County, and then Dr. Watkins and Dr. Gerald in Henry County, and then Johnny McAdams and Carroll. So we kind of talk and, see what's, especially Humphreys County, they're probably the closest geographic with from south to north being so long, so there's a lot of factors that go in.
Now, are snow days like we've had, or these inclement weather days, are they actually built into your overall school calendar now?
They are. Probably close to 20 years ago, we started stockpiling. What that does is we go an extra 30 minutes a day. Our day is from 7:50 to 2:50. That includes bus, everything in between. So we actually build in 13 days. We use 2 of those for staff development. So that's days that our teachers come in for additional training. They count as instruction days, and so we have 11 that we can use for inclement weather or sick or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah. Well, of course, no doubt Monday, I think it was a no-brainer, with the weather systems moving in. But I would imagine days like we had Thursday when we start getting some thawing in the area, as you know, and roads here, Mark, as you know, very, very clear and all that. And you're thinking maybe we might try to open up tomorrow, but we have a unique county because it can be so clear in one part of the county and roads strictly covered in the other part.
We do, Flash, and I'll tell you, I don't live in the other counties, but I'm willing to say our highway department, Buck Carter and his staff, probably work harder than any other highway department. I know they do for us. Buck himself was going through the school parking lots on Thursday, spreading salt, just trying to get it where we could go. Thursday, I actually thought we might be able to, or Wednesday thought we might be able to go early Thursday, but I drove down to the Big Sandy area, and there were some back roads there that were still pretty slick. Friday was a different, we had thawed pretty good, but they were calling for temperatures to go down into, low 20s, and with the ice on the trees and still the roads were wet, we just, going late was not going to help us because it wasn't going to go above freezing. So that kind of weighed into that decision. And, they're hard decisions. I always laugh. I said, snow days are great for our staffs and students, but, sometimes they're pretty stressful and lose sleep trying to, because we always want to err on, like I said earlier, on the side of safety.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we are into the second half of the 2022-23 school year, and as I mentioned, come back after the Christmas holidays for about about 3 or 4 weeks before the inclement weather hit this week. But the first half of the year and the early part of the second half of the school year, Mark, how do you evaluate it? How are we doing?
Flash, I think, I think we talked earlier in the fall. I think we're starting to see some normalcy, and that's important. We're still, we try to, at our staff meetings and around the school system, we try to not use the word COVID and not talk about, how those have affected the school system. Obviously it has, but we're moving forward, and I think we're having a great year, and it's by far the closest thing to normalcy that we've had in the past 3 years.
Yeah, and there has still been some illnesses out there. It is still, as you know, and before Christmas, we heard of some school systems having to close because of things, respiratory ailments, things like the flu. But we were fortunate that we were able to make it the entire first half of the year with no closings.
We have, and that's another thing that colleagues around the state maybe look at different. We really, as long as we have staff that can cover our classrooms, we try to continue on with school, because it's just, I haven't seen where we've let out for 3 or 4 days that it really helps with illness, and I'd probably get some disagreements on that from the medical field, but we have in the past, and we just have to monitor. Each situation's different. I will tell you, and we've talked about this earlier, our school nurses are just fabulous, and then their vision for this school clinic, Miss Amy and Tara have took our clinic at the schools, and it has been a true blessing to our school system.
That was actually one of the talking points I had this morning, the school clinic that opened up, I think, just prior to the start of the school year, with Tara over there and her fine staff over there and the whole school nursing staff. I mean, that really has helped. That's helped our system, hasn't it?
Flash, we knew it would be a tremendous asset, but I don't think anyone seen how much our staff and students would utilize the clinic. So we are thrilled with that, and it's going to be something long term that our school system can be proud of.
And every time I've talked with Miss Tara or some of the staff out there, some of the school nurses, they tell me she's been quite busy. And has it cut down, let's say, a student, in the past, if they left the school facilities, they left to go to a doctor's appointment, might not have come back. Has it been, do you know at this point, like if you had students that needed to see the school nurse or Tara for any reason, that they could see her and get back to class then?
I've heard of situations. I hadn't seen the numbers, but I know we've had situations where in the past a child would have left, or an employee, and went home, but instead they go to the clinic, they get their prescription, and they come back to work or to class, which is really the main reason for the clinic. To provide that health service that our students and our staff can get quick attention, and if they're not ill where they have to leave, they can come back. So that has just been, we're so proud of that. A shout out to West Tennessee Healthcare for willing to partner with us. So we're just, this has been a great partnership. And of course, Tara, we kind of considered her part of the school family anyway, and now Miss Amy coming over from the elementary. So they just did a fabulous job. But it all started with the 5 nurses that we have. They just are tremendous.
And your nurses back during the fall, they received some accolades, I think, from some state organizations. Congratulations on that.
They did.
On that accomplishment.
Kayla Mills was the Tennessee Nurse of the Year. And then Whitney Key at Camden Elementary Nurse, she won the RISE Award, and that's the award from the state for the top non-certified employee. I don't know if I like, because she's licensed as well, but all our staff are very important. But she does a tremendous job, a lot more than just nursing, and they all do. We're extremely happy to have them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, about 10 days ago, we had open house out at the addition to the central office out on Briarwood Avenue. Good crowd out there, and in case people did not get a chance to come by and visit with you, tell us about the expansion, why it was needed, and what this means now for the Board of Education central office and the community.
Well, Flash, everyone knows back we received the emergency relief funds from the federal government a couple years ago. So we were looking at ways to utilize those funds for something that, we just don't use for 2 or 3 years, and then how do we sustain it? Obviously there's been a lot of funds spent on technology and remediation, which we need to do, but we looked at upgrading our facilities for before COVID, we met in the basement, which was a very small area for our school board. So we decided to build, we call it the Benton County Board of Education Support Center, and we built a nice conference room where the school board meets, but the main purpose of that is for teacher training and meetings where we have space. There's also technology in there that we could have distance learning for students or adults if something come along in the future. We also added a finance office, and we added a new office for the director of schools. We added, which was much needed, public restrooms for the meetings. And then downstairs, probably the supervisor's favorite part, we built what we call, it's just a full basement, we call it our book barn. And so all of our textbooks are now in the basement. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but for the past, well, I've been in the school system finishing up my 28th year. We've stored our textbooks in the maintenance shop where there's there's heat in the winter, but there's no air in the summer. So most of our textbook distribution goes on in the summer. So now our textbooks will be in climate control, and our supervisors and staff can work, comfortably and get those sent out to the schools.
I thought it was a great idea that particular day, Mark, to join in with the Chamber of Commerce for their Chamber Coffee, which they started a few weeks ago. This was the second Chamber Coffee, and I thought that was just a great partnership the way it worked out.
I agree, and thanks to Karen Hudson and Lori Matlock for bringing that together, because they came to me, and we've been, the Board of Education has been a member of the Chamber for as long as I can remember, but I really didn't think about an open house because, we're not technically a business, but when you look at our school system, we're probably the most important factor to any business in our county is, how our schools operate.
Well, as you go along then, when prospective industries are coming in and looking at a possible location to expand, they're going to look at the Chamber of Commerce, they're going to look at the school system and all these other things, all these other resources that you have.
Absolutely, and we appreciate them involving us, and it was a tremendous crowd. I was shocked at how many people showed up, and I would encourage people from the community, if you couldn't make it, to call up to the office, and we'd be glad to show it to you. We're awful proud of it, and the community should be proud.
Now, the federal funding that came for this project, I think ESSER funds,
yes.
That's really been a benefit the last 3 years to other projects in the school
It has,
system.
and Daniel Armstrong, which is from Benton County, we brought him back home from Henry County to join our team, and that's been his main role. He's, data loss supervisor and also managing ESSER, and he's done an excellent job of managing those funds. But we've been able to provide additional teachers to reduce class size. We've used it for additional tutoring. We're fixing to adopt math textbooks. It was able to help us, which is a huge expense. We built the new expansion. We've actually bought a building across the street that we're going to turn into adult education and alternative. And then the rest of the funds have really been focused on learning loss and technology. And so, we have another year. That concludes in the summer of 24. So next year will be the last year of ESSER funds. They'll have to be spent.
Yeah. The federal funding, the things that Daniel is doing out there, getting these fundings in, and last year when we had the designation all district, or that title, all I think whatever. Mine's
best of all.
Best
yes,
of all, yes.
Yes.
But that district, when we had the observance of that and the big celebration
Right.
out at the high school then, and that sort of thing, and Daniel and all the supervisors, and you even mentioned that particular day, all these funds, in one way or another, they've gone back for the good of the student. Then.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's about. We have took some. We did give a bonus last year to all our staff members because, during this during the pandemic, there were some long hours and some difficult times, and so we wanted to reward them. But we definitely have put, as much as we can back in for our students. That's what it's for.
Now, the BOLD grant, is that something separate from ESSER? It's still a state federal project, but that has helped. That's helped too in Benton
That's
County.
been tremendous,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's finishing up this year. Miss Betty has done a tremendous job with that. Promoting literacy throughout our county, and we're looking at maybe some avenues to continue that in some ways. No way we can continue it the way it's been, but that has really been a huge benefit to our community. And just another shout out to our team at Central Office, because they're the ones that sit down with the grant writers and put that together. And I think it was $1.5 million of providing books and literacy opportunities to our students and families in our community.
Well, you see that put to good use, and I love going down the highway on occasion, seeing that Words on Wheels coming my way, that nice-looking van.
Yeah, the WOW van has been popular, and that was a vision of Miss Betty's, and it's popular with the students and the teachers.
Indeed it has. Indeed it has, of course. Well, I've got more talking points, but I know you have some notes. And before we take the break, Mark, really what do you want to bring out to our audience today?
Well, the one thing, Flash, we talked about before we started today, the fair has announced that the fair will be on, I think it's August the 4th, the first Friday in August. So our school calendar, our board always puts out the calendar usually at least 18 months early. The 23-24 calendar's been out for a while, but the original calendar had that fair day would be the last Friday in September, but it did say subject to change. So the calendar will change. The board will vote on that Monday night, and so we'll start school on Wednesday the 2nd. We'll go the 2nd and 3rd, that Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll be out Friday for Fair Day. And then that last Thursday or Friday in September, I'm not exactly sure what the date is, then that would be a day for students. So that's the big change for the calendar there.
How many days are in the school calendar? I know that we recently celebrated a couple of weeks ago 101 days of instruction. There's got to be so many days of classroom instruction within the school year, but beyond that, just how many days do you have to have for educational purposes?
The students have to attend 180 days. That's state law now, with those 13 days built in. So, like when we have the 2 staff development days, obviously that cuts it back to 178. Now we're down to 174 using 4 sick days, but we have to have 180 days, instructional days in our calendar.
And that was celebrated in great fashion. And I was over at the elementary school, Miss Christie over there and her fine staff about 2 weeks ago this coming Monday, and that was a fine day. And those kids, when they have an accomplishment like that, I think they need to be recognized, Mark.
Miss Christie and all the principals do a great job of celebrating 100 days. That's always been just a celebration day in the school system, so they do a great job with that. And since you mentioned Camden Elementary, I bring up that Miss Christy Wilson was the West Tennessee Principal of the Year, and also the Commissioner of Education is coming to visit Camden Elementary on February 17th, so we look forward to that.
Very good then. And the Commissioner right now, that reminds me as we go in this direction before the break, legislature's going back into session right now, as you know, and U.S. Congress is going back into session for their new term. So what do you want to see? Those people in Nashville, those people in Washington, our representatives, what do you want them to see that can help us more here with the local education in Benton County and surrounding area?
Well, I think state-wise, and it's a huge topic, is the third grade retention. And we may talk about that later today, but I think the intentions are good. We all want our students reading on grade level, by the time they reach third grade. I think the thing that we're missing with the law, it could require several of our students to, either have to attend summer camp or tutoring the following year, or they would be retained. The one thing I'm not sure the legislation's aware of is that we have measures in place to make sure those kids that are maybe a little behind, to work with them and catch them up. So I'm hoping there's a lot of talk with third grade retention that they will adjust that, but we'll do as we're told, and we'll follow the law. And if there's not any adjustments, then we'll work with our parents and students and do the best we can to make this work.
Of course, when schools had to close nearly 3 years ago now, I guess from into March or into April, the remainder of the school year, because of the pandemic then, and as we went along with times, did we actually how did that affect, learning what the kids would have gotten in maybe that past 2 months?
I think there was some learning loss. I think the big thing is that we need to keep in mind, I think there was a lot more social emotional than it was academics. That was hard on our students and our staff, to be out for 6 months. And so we're really working on that. We're putting things in place, to help our students and staff with some of those gaps that, during that time. But I think we're getting there. And I know Senator Blackburn was here 2 or 3 weeks ago, and when she went around talking to all of us, the only thing I said is I just wish our in Washington and Nashville would put out how hard our students and our staffs have been working for the last 2 years. It seems like we hear the bad, but we always end every meeting, and I think our community needs to hear it. There's a whole lot more positives going on in our schools than negatives. Do we need to improve in areas? Absolutely, and we'll continue to work on that. But I just want people to realize that our students and staff are working extremely hard to get back to where we want to be, and sometimes I don't think they hear that.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, that fall of 2020, I guess it was now, where we even delayed school from the original start in August of that year, that first day when school come back into session, I think I was over in your office and looked out your window, saw those kids at Briarwood come into the playground, and that was a pretty sight on that first day of school that year.
It is, Flash. And that's one thing we need to realize is, with the exception of when we had to close, when we were told to close from March to May, we were actually in school. Our kids were in school. We had a couple weeks, I think, in the fall of 20 where our high school and junior high went virtual, but that was just a couple weeks. The rest of that time we were in person. So, I commend our school board and our parents and our students and staff for making that happen.
Well, I tell you what, let's do right now. Let's take a break for our sponsor, our good friends at Apex Bank. Luke in the other studio is going to do that for us right now, and we'll return with the second portion of Operation 7570. Stay with us.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931. In recent years, through growth and expansion, we've taken that same local community spirit into other markets. Today, with over 20,000 customers across Tennessee, our business philosophy remains the same. Local people making local decisions, serving our friends and customers, and investing in the communities that we serve. Here for you yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Apex Bank of Camden, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome, everybody, to the second portion of Operation 7570 today. In our studios live with us is the Director of Schools, Mark Florence, and while it's on my mind right now, because of the weather situation this week, we had to postpone the Camden-Waverly basketball game, but that's going to be rescheduled for tonight at 6 o'clock out at Camden Central High School, and we plan to be out there following the broadcast of the UT Auburn College game today. Former Coach Bruce Pearl, now at Auburn down there. So, Mark, going to be a busy day for sports around here, and I'm ready to see some basketball.
I am too. I'm looking excited. Always exciting when we play Waverly. A great rivalry, but also, great friends. And, I went over to the Waverly game. I know you did. Talked to Mr. Rye several times this week with the weather. But, we need to continue to keep Humphreys County in our prayers. That flood, and even though it's been over a year ago, that has put a tremendous burden on their school system and their community. And it just doesn't, it's not fixed overnight. So, please continue to think about them, because they have kids in different schools, and they're spread out across the county, and so that they're really working hard to get that back to normal. But that's just not something you can do overnight, and that staff over there has been through it with their kids.
Absolutely, and our thoughts and prayers still remain with those fine friends and neighbors as they go forward on with the tough decisions that they have to make over there. But speaking of things going on in the athletic world, in high school, of course, we mentioned the ball game coming up tonight, but basketball, that reminds me that before the break, a new surface floor was put down at the Big Sandy Gymnasium.
It was, Flash. It was quite the process. I mean, we were supposed to be through in August and have it ready before school started, and if anybody's had any construction work in the last couple years, it usually doesn't finish on time, but they did finish up, end of November, and if you hadn't been to the Big Sandy Gym, it is something, I was down there last weekend, and if it's not the prettiest floor in the state, it's awful close. It's nice, and so a lot for them to be proud of, and we're just tickled that we could do that.
They had to play some of their games, I think, up here at the Camden Gymnasium, but I saw where they had homecoming down there a few days ago, and that's great down there. I was down there a couple of weeks ago for Big Sandy, Brewston, Hollow Rock, I believe, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful surface, and the way the surface is, it just enhances the overall lighting inside that gymnasium.
It does. The school board, took ownership and fixed that when we were told that it wasn't safe enough, but we repaired it last year, and then as soon as basketball was over, we worked to get it replaced. So unfortunately, the junior high didn't get to play on it this year. I think the high school either missed 3 or 4 games, but we were able to get them on it before Christmas, and then they've been able to resume their normal schedule the second semester.
And there's also some work, probably had to delay it some this week, but there's also work going on at Camden over at the football field. We'll have a new football field this fall.
They were actually working yesterday. They were setting forms, and they work when they can. The interesting thing is, if you heard the news this week, that the Titans are putting in a new field. It's the exact field that we'll be putting in. Obviously, probably some differences, but it's the same company, and it's supposed to be the same type of field.
Artificial surfaces, they've changed over the past 3 or 4 decades since that first came into being years and years ago as far as safety goes.
Right. It's really not artificial turf anymore. I call it the same thing, but we think of the old carpet.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the main thing is that when we get this field put in, our community can use it. I think I've talked to directors in Huntington and Milan, and it's used several days out of the year, and you can't hurt it. So before then, our football coaches were working on the fields, and they spend a lot of time prepping that, and then we'd have bad weather. Then Little League football couldn't play, and that's discouraging for parents. It's discouraging for the coaches because they don't want to tell them they can't use it, but they have to make sure it's ready for Friday night. So youth soccer, youth football will be able to use it, and then obviously junior high and high school football, and then hopefully it should be used for other community events. So I think it's going to be a tremendous asset to our community.
Well, you've been to football games in other communities on Friday nights with grass surface, and I have too, and they may have had 2 or 3 other activities going on throughout the course of the week, a Thursday night middle school or junior high game, and maybe something earlier in the week. Band may have been practiced on that field, but hey, by the time a Friday night varsity game comes around, boy, those fields are in bad shape.
They are, Flash, and so we're excited about that. Also, the school board, there was an underlining layer that you could put on the field for additional safety, and they chose to do that. So, with the help of the county commission, they have put $200,000 towards the project. So, once we have that ready, and it's supposed to be ready for graduation, so that that's going to be the first time we're able to showcase it. But we're excited about that, and I think the community will just see the benefits as the years go by.
Mark, here we are about 3.5 months before the end of the current school year. Are our seniors right now, are they making plans for their future, getting all their scholarships in order, things like that, what they need to, as they might pursue a life after Camden Central or Big Sandy?
They are, and Miss Emily Pierce, the guidance counselor, and then Miss Emily Parrott that the Ayers Foundation has provided for the last 2 years. They work with our seniors. Emily Parrott's been a huge asset. Emily Pierce does a tremendous job at being guidance counselor, testing coordinator for the county. It's very difficult for her to do all those and the careers, but since Emily's come in, her main focus is to work with our high school, 8th grade through 12th grade, working on scholarships, working on post-secondary careers, and not only that, once they go to their post-secondary career, she checks on those, and we can't thank the Ayers Foundation enough for providing that position, and so that's her main priority, and she's been a wonderful asset to our school.
Tell me a little bit more about the Ayers Foundation in case there are some viewers or some listeners not familiar with the Ayers Foundation, and how we ended up with the partnership with that fine organization.
Well, Jim Ayers and First Bank from Decatur County, him and his wife, and I can't think of Miss Ayers' first name. I apologize for that, but they had a vision, and so post-secondary has been a huge goal of theirs, and so I think in Decatur County and parts of Henderson County they have a scholarship where those kids, but in Benton County they've provided this guide. We call it, it's a career counselor. And so they partner with other school systems, but Miss Emily Parrott's here with us. That they pay her salary, they take care of all of that. So a wonderful benefit to Benton County. And then the Ayers Foundation has also, we've partnered, they have provided professional development for our staff through an organization called NIET, and so for the past 2 years our staff has received phenomenal professional development that we would not have been able to have. So the Ayers Foundation obviously very involved in education in rural communities, and I think there's 14 or 15 counties they work with throughout the state. So we're a better school system because of the Ayers Foundation, and we really appreciate their support.
Mark, as we look forward into educational needs here in the next few years for Benton County, and of course, we've all heard the last couple of years about the Blue Oval coming into their fine facility down Hardin County around Brownsville, I believe, and we think we're going to get some spin-off maybe industries from that great facility down there. As we go forward with local education, do you see us maybe expanding our needs, particularly over at the Career and Vocational Center for those type of trades?
We're currently working on our innovative school model. Governor Lee in his budget put some additional funds in for career and technical education, innovative school models. Our county received $2.5 million. It's divided, I think, the high school gets $1 million, and Vic Sandy and junior high get $500,000, and then Holiday gets $250,000. And what we're doing with those funds is we're trying to take career and technical education down to the junior high level, trying to provide them some classes to get them ready for career and tech, at an earlier age. We're looking at providing some technology that would actually give them some visuals on, different careers. Dr. Shannon has brought a couple of vendors in. It's really amazing. Shows you put the goggles on, shows you how to operate a forklift, shows you how to just do several, change a tire, several different things. So we're looking at putting some career exploration down in our junior high and hopefully expanding career and tech into that junior high level across the district. And then we're looking at adding different, we're hoping we can put building trades back into the Career and Technical Center, and we're also looking at cosmetology. That's some of the areas that we're looking at. So there's definitely going to be some big changes, and then we hope we can expand our work-based learning where students that want to work, if they can come in and get their classes either in the morning or afternoon and then work, when they're not in school. So a lot of changes are coming in the next couple of years for sure.
Some of these things you're talking about, Mark, seem like they're going to go hand in hand with what these kids now are learning through their STEM projects.
Yes, yeah. In STEM, even though we can't spend this money down at the elementary level, it will probably enhance that just to get the kids interested in things. It's great that we have students going to college, but we also need several going to that technical area because there's a lot of jobs there, and sometimes I think we maybe steer them to college a little more than we should. Maybe send them to that career and tech area because we have a lot of needs there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. Well, time is getting away from us, and in our final closing minutes here today, Mark, what other topics would you like to bring out to our listening public today?
Well, one thing, we talked about it a little earlier, but, our summer camp will be coming up with for rising 4th through 8th graders, so that would be our current 3rd graders and 7th graders. I would tell you to be looking for information coming out for our school system if you're interested in your students attending that. With 3rd grade retention, letters went out this week. I think our teachers are notifying those students, and we're going to have some, I think it's February the 21st, we're going to be at Holiday and Briarwood School, and then the 23rd, we're going to Briarwood to just meet with Big Sandy, to meet with parents if they have any questions about 3rd grade retention. And then we encourage you to call the central office. That's going to be the big topic. And so we just want to talk to our parents about that. We have another, our school board through ESSER funds, we're implementing a program in our school system next year called Capturing Kids' Hearts. I could talk about Capturing Kids' Hearts for a while. I went to the training with 7 other colleagues from our district back in October. By far the most phenomenal training that I've been to. And it's just about relationships and building culture in our school system, and student connectedness. So we're really striving on that. We actually have 7 of our staff members going to Gatlinburg next week for additional training, and then we'll train all our staffs in May. Milan has implemented it. There's several districts across the state that have implemented it, and as I talk to their directors, they say it's just a game changer for their community and their school system. So we're excited about that, and you'll probably be hearing more about capturing kids' hearts.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring up right now, and I meant to earlier in the program when we were talking about the new addition over there, and you mentioned the local contractor, Todd Prince, and other local contractors that worked on this project. And you mentioned 10 days ago over there at the open house, Mark, you mentioned the fact that, having local people work on these projects, I mean, the money that was used for that, it turns back over X number of times.
Absolutely, Flash. I mean, obviously, we have to bid these projects, but when local contractors get those, and that's nothing against the ones that are not here, but when we can take those funds and it employs our local people, that's great. It's just like the turf field, all the dirt. I think Tim Pfeiffer and his company has hauled that. All the gravel, will come from Benton County. All the workers are staying in Benton County hotels. So, that's the main thing. We turn that back in to help our community. So when we can, we are always going to use local contractors.
And you did that as much as possible. I think some of the flooring actually over there come from a local custom flooring, I think.
It did.
Yeah,
it did.
Local ties there as well. So yes.
So. We do our best. Obviously with bid and comptroller's rules, we have to follow those. But when we can, we definitely use local contractors for our work.
Well, I learned the first part of this week, or maybe it was the end of last week. Our good buddy, Chancellor down at UT Martin, Dr. Carver, he's got a big promotion going up to Knoxville, and what a great friend he's been for UT Martin personnel all of West Tennessee, and he's a people's person, and I don't think it's a great surprise that he's not going to the flagship campus now.
No, I started to text Dr. Carver, but I'm sure he's busy. I read his statement, and he said, he knows UT Martin will continue to grow, and I believe that. I mean, I'm a UTM graduate. They're dear to my heart, but, Dr. Carver he was a real UT Martin guy, and he brought West Tennessee, into UTM, and he was very approachable. We reached out to him. He come in, I think, and did your show, and he come and spoke at our academic awards banquet this year. So, a lot of neat things, and we'd definitely miss Dr. Carver, but UT Knoxville's pretty dear to our heart too, and we know he'd do a great job there, and I'm confident in the UT system to put someone at Martin that'll continue his legacy.
Yeah, and up at Knoxville, he's going to be associated with the UT Institute of Agriculture, which is over Extension, so we may still see him from time to time. I hope so.
Me too.
May see him at a football game as that young boy's coming up through the ranks with the volunteers.
He has one playing there, so UTM will definitely miss Dr. Carver.
But we appreciate the association that UTM has, and we have a lot of ties. We have a lot of ties here in Benton County with people working at UTM or teaching classes down at the Parsons Center, things like that.
We do. I mean, UTM is a huge part of our school system. I don't have the numbers, but well over 50% of our faculty graduated from UTM, and we appreciate their loyalty and their partnership, and we'll continue to work with them in the future.
Mark, anything in closing today?
No, Flash, I just want everybody in the community just to continue to remember just how hard our students and staff members are working, and to continue to encourage them. We talk about it all the time. I don't know of a small community that supports their school system better than ours, and we sure appreciate that, and we appreciate the support, and we look forward to educating our students in the future, and great things are to come.
And I guess as we get into the winter time, toward the end of winter right now into the fall, I imagine some of our organizations, the kids that are involved in certain organizations, they'll be getting ready for maybe some district regional contests, things like that. We wish them well.
The student organizations will start competitions probably this month, and then we've got spring sports coming, and so a lot of things fixing to start happening, and I'm ready for spring for sure.
I think we all are. Well, Mark, thanks for being here on Operation 7570. Always a pleasure, and once again, we're going back to school Monday.
We're going back to school Monday.
Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it first right here this morning on Operation 7570. Well, we thank Mark Florence, Director of Benton County Schools, for being our guest today. We thank our sponsor, Apex Bank. Thanks to Luke Crutchfield, our producer in the other room today. Hope you have a great day. Of course, he's going to have the bargain auction coming your way. UT Auburn basketball today, later, early part of the afternoon. Then tonight, we'll be out at CHS for the Camden-Waverly basketball game broadcast. Have a great day, a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday morning.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a